Hey everyone, Kevin P. McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Digital Juice tutorial, and this time we're going to take a look at getting started with toxic templates for Adobe's After Effects. Now, as I start out all of my getting started with tutorials, I have to remind you that if you haven't downloaded the most recent version of the Juicer, you need to head on over to the Digital Juice website and download it. And as of this recording, the most recent version of the Juicer is Juicer 3.89 Build 119. Again, an absolutely free download for Windows and for all versions of Mac OS, all the way back to 10.4 Tiger. Okay, now what's going to happen is once you've decided to purchase toxic templates, you're going to receive an email from Digital Juice that gives you obviously not only the license key, but a link to the download for the software. But as we know, and especially as I know, emails can get lost. Your dog can eat them. You can accidentally delete them. So what do you do if you suddenly now cannot find that email that you received from Digital Juice with the information to not only download your product, but also to get that license key? Well, don't worry. What's going to happen is that as soon as you purchase toxic templates or any other direct download software from Digital Juice, you're going to be able to head on over to the Digital Juice website. You're going to come right up here to the top to the Your Account section. You're going to see that I'm already logged in here. I'm simply going to click on Your Account, and what's going to happen is that right over here, you're going to notice that underneath your activation keys, which by the way, is where you're going to be able to go in and find all of the activation keys for the physical products that you've purchased, you're going to notice a section that says Digital Juice Downloads. What's going to happen is that I'm going to click on Digital Juice Downloads, and you're going to notice right here at the top, I now have the link to the Toxic Templates collection for Adobe's After Effects Volume 1. You can see it's downloadable. It also tells me the order ID, and under Activation Key, you're going to see that an activation key is not required for this product. Obviously, if there was an activation key, I would see it right here. What I can now do is simply click where it says Show Available Files for Download, and you're going to see that right here, this file is 1.11 gigabytes big. I can view any notes on it, but most importantly, I can download it right here inside my account on the Digital Juice website. So you can see a very convenient way for you to get in and stay organized with all of the products you've purchased, because I know purchasing Digital Juice products can be quite addictive and you may have a lot of them. This is a great way to get in and keep not only all of your products organized, but also all of your activation keys organized as well. Okay, so once you've downloaded your software, you're ready to get into the Juicer and install it. So why don't we talk about that next? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide Firefox, and let's get into the Juicer and let's talk about installation. Okay, so I'm just going to launch the Juicer here, and you can see Juicer 3.89 Build 119, and let's just maximize this out so that it fills my frame. And to install any of the downloadable products from Digital Juice is actually very easy. Now, this is going to be why you're going to want to make sure that you have the most recent version of the Juicer. Because if you're using a previous version of the Juicer, you might not have access to coming up to File. You're going to see that we now have an option inside of the File dropdown called, appropriately enough, Install Downloaded Content. What I'm going to do is simply select that, and you're going to see that right here inside the Downloads folder. Now, obviously, this is going to differ for you based on where you downloaded the product to, but you can see in here I have my Toxic Templates AE Collection number 1. I'm simply going to say open. What the Juicer is going to tell me is, well, hold on a second, you already have this installed. Are you sure you want to reinstall it? Now, for the purposes of what we're doing, I'm going to get to the point where I actually install it, and then I'll say cancel. So what I'm going to do is say okay. I obviously encourage you to read the license agreement from Digital Juice for this product. I'm simply going to say I agree, say continue. And now I'm going to be asked as to where I want to install the product to. You'll see that it requires 1.71 gigabytes of free space, but I got a little bit of available space here. But like I said, I already have this installed to one of my external hard drives, so I'm actually going to skip this whole process. And if for some reason you had an issue when you installed before, you can obviously skip previously installed items. What you would then do is simply come down and say install, and in a matter of minutes, the product is going to be installed, ready for you to work with. But what I'm going to do here is just hit cancel, because like I said, I already have the product installed. And to find toxic templates for Adobe's After Effects is very easy. We're going to navigate right over here underneath Animated Canvases to Projects and Templates. We're going to drop that down, and because we're working with an Adobe After Effects project collection, what we're going to want to do is select Adobe's After Effects projects, and you're going to see now that I have access to all of the different products that I've purchased from Digital Juice that are considered Adobe's After Effects projects. You'll see there's quite a lot of them in here. So really, organization is going to be key. So let's talk a little bit about organization before we move on here. Now you're going to notice right away over here on the left hand side, right beside all the actual templates themselves, I'm actually working in filter mode right now. Now for some reason you don't see filter mode right here. It might be because you actually have it hidden just like that. Now filter mode is a great way to really get in and find the elements that you're going to want to use. So what I'm going to do is actually show filter mode. And normally how I like to work is I actually like to work from the bottom up. I like to look at product first, then resolution, and then I can get in and look at the different sets if I want to. But in most cases, if you have the first two set, you're really not going to need to get in and adjust the set because you're going to be able to just simply scroll down and pick the element that you want. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is drop down the product drop down, and you're going to see that I have a whole bunch of different ready to go products as well as toxic templates and toxic type. And that actually is represented in here by all the different thumbnails here. So what I want to do is I just want to see the toxic templates collection. So what I'm going to do is simply select it, and you're going to see that the juicer is going to update in a second and now show me just the toxic templates that I have installed on my machine. Very nice. Now of course, because most of the work I do is in high definition, I'm going to want to come next to resolution, and I'm just going to want to select all of the HD projects. You're going to see again the juicer is going to take about a second to update. And now all I have in here is just the different HD projects inside of toxic templates. Very, very nice. Now you're going to see that we are looking at the templates category. You can see these are the different templates, but you're going to see that we have a few other categories in here as well. The next one obviously is animated elements. You'll see that in this case I don't have any animated elements installed. The next category, and probably one of the most important besides templates, is fonts. And you're going to see that I have all of the fonts in here that are associated with all of these different projects. Now I obviously encourage you to install all of these fonts right away. You'll see installing them is very simple. What I'm going to do is simply come down. I'm going to take a look at the font here. This font is Able, so I'm just going to click on it here, and there we go. You'll see I now have a visual representation of exactly what this font looks like, and if I wanted to, I could simply say install, but you're going to see now that I actually already have Able installed on my system. Why? Well, because I went through in the juicer and I installed each one of these fonts one by one. It took me about, less than 5 minutes to get them all installed. But you know what? It's just much easier doing things this way. So this way, anytime you open a project, you don't have to worry, oh, do I have that font installed? Everything is right there at your disposal when you're ready to start working. You'll see the last tab is obviously extras, and in this case, we don't have any extras. But what I want to do is I want to head back to the templates category here just for 1 second, because there's a couple other things that we do need to talk about before we talk about getting these elements out of the juicer. You're going to see that if I bring the mouse down over top of the element, that I'm now told exactly what the element is called. Kinetic Youth HD. I can come to the next one. This one's called Newsbreak HD. This doesn't seem like a very easy way to get in and find out information about these elements. I wish there was a better way to do this. Well, you know what? There actually is a better way to do this. What I'm going to do is navigate right over here to the Customize dropdown. I'm going to click on the Customize dropdown, and let's select, appropriately enough, Customize. You'll see now that I now can get in and customize exactly what I want all of these thumbnails to actually look like, or I can even display the file name, which is what I actually want to do. I'm going to select display file name. I'm simply going to say OK, and you can see now that I have the name of each one of the elements now below it, so I can easily get in and see what everything is called. What I'm going to do is just come back to the customize parameters here, because you're going to see that I can also get in if I wanted to make these thumbnails. Well, let's say I wanted to make them a little bit bigger. Maybe what I'll do is I'll actually have 3 thumbnails across here. Let's just select 3 here. And I'm simply going to say OK, and you'll see now that we have a bigger thumbnail of all of these different elements. But you know what, for me, I'm accustomed to working the way that the juicer is set up by default. So what I'm going to do here is just come back to the set thumbnail size to be 213, and I can even show the icons, these icons down here, only when I bring the mouse over top of them if I wanted to. But you know what, I like having them there, so I'm just simply going to say OK and set everything back the way I had it before. Now, of course, if I wanted to get in and see a quick preview of what one of these elements happen to look like, I can simply select it, and the juicer is going to play a preview of it for me, so I can decide if this is something that I want to use in my production. Now, there is something else that's important to keep in mind. What I'm actually looking at here is the full element. And inside the full element, there might be 4, 5, or 6 different components that make up this one element. So how do I get in and see the individual components that make up the element? Well, there's actually a very easy way to do it, and we're actually being slightly deceived by the juicer here. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what is actually happening here is that sets of these toxic templates are actually being grouped together into a folder. And how do I know that? Well, right up here, you can see that right now what I'm doing is showing sets as folders. If I deselect that, you're going to see now that I can actually see all of the different elements that make up the combined HD element. So what I can do is I can see the whole element here. You'll see we'll go through this here. This shopping season, that moves out. But take a look at this. Segment 1 is actually just that opening animation. Then it goes into segment 2, which is this animation, and so on and so on. But for me, I don't like having all of the different elements like this. I actually like having them as a folder. Well, getting in and seeing all the different elements is actually very easy. All I'm going to do is simply double click on the folder, and there's everything all nice and organized for me, ready to simply click through and pick the one that I want, or if I happen to want the combined one, I can simply choose the combined one to export from the juicer as well. You'll see that obviously if I step back here, I'll just double click on the up arrow here, I can actually get into any one of these elements and see. In some cases, like I said, there's really only one element that goes with it. In this case, we actually have two different flavors of it. One, obviously option 1, is sort of a blue and red look, and this one here is actually kind of the reverse. But you can see it's great that we have this flexibility inside the juicer, obviously not only to see this, but it's great that the team gives us a lot of options to work with. So maybe we don't want to have, the one combined element. Maybe we want to take the 6 elements that make them up and loop them repeatedly because maybe we need them to be longer, or maybe we need them to be shorter so we can take elements out. It's great having this flexibility inside of the juicer. So I'm just going to step back up a second because I think we're ready to talk about getting these elements out of the juicer now. Now, to get elements out of the juicer, how most people are accustomed to working is simply taking the element and dragging it right over here into the batch panel. And yes, we could obviously work that way. But with these ready-to-go elements and with the toxic type collections and the toxic templates collections, we can work a little bit different. You're going to see right here in the lower right-hand corner, I have a little After Effects icon. And what I can do is simply select that After Effects icon, and now I have 4 different options that I can choose from to get these elements out of the juicer. What I can do is obviously collect the files into one place. I can actually send the project right to After Effects. You'll see that I can open it as a new project, or I can import it into the current project I'm working on. Now in this case, I don't have After Effects set up inside of the juicer for me to do that. But if I wanted to, what I could do is simply say set file location. What I can do here is I can actually come down to the OS. I can come into program files. I'm going to come into Adobe, into After Effects CS6 because that's what I'm working. I'm going to right click and say open the file location, and there's After Effects, and I can simply say open, and now the juicer is going to remember where After Effects is, so I can simply either import it now as a new project or import it into the current project. You can see it was actually very quick and very simple to set that up inside of the juicer. Once you set it once, the juicer won't forget it. Now let me just come back to the After Effects drop down here because I should point out that collect files and right down here, add to batch, pretty much do the same thing when we're dealing with these ready-to-go toxic type or toxic templates collections. The last option we have is to show the containing folder. Now this is the folder where this element is when it was installed by the juicer. You can see right here it's in Data, Digital Juice, Toxic Templates, AE Collections, Kinetic Youth. In most cases, I suggest do not go in and alter any of the elements inside of here. If you get in and you start altering elements inside of the folder you installed it into and end up saving it over top of those elements, to get back to the original, you're going to need to reinstall. I always recommend people take these elements, export them into a folder, and work with them like that. That way you can alter them, save them however you want, and you don't need to worry about ever having to go back into the juicer except to export new elements. Okay, so let's export one of these elements for us to get into After Effects and take a look at how they work. And one that really caught my eye right away here was the Flash Wall HD. What I'm going to do is just simply double click on the folder, and let's just pick one of the elements here. And obviously to pick any of the elements, I could simply select it and we can take a look at it here. Very nice. Sure, why don't we go with this one here? What I'm going to do is just pause playback. I'm going to navigate down to the After Effects icon, and I'm simply going to say collect files. It's going to ask me where do you want to collect the files. In this case, I'll just collect them to the desktop, and you'll see that only 43.1 megabytes are required to collect this project. All I'm going to do is simply say collect now. You'll see in about a second that the juicer is done. I could have it show me the containing folder, but you know what? I know it's on the desktop, so I'm simply going to say OK. Just pause playback here. I'm just going to minimize the juicer, and there is the project ready for me to work with inside of After Effects CS6. So why don't we do that? Let's get into After Effects and let's take a look at how you're going to be able to take footage and drop it into this Toxic template so you're going to be up and running and ready to render in no time flat. Okay, so I'm just going to launch After Effects by simply coming over here to the flash wall. And I should point out before I launch After Effects that you're going to notice that this is not the actual project. It's a shortcut to the project. Now I know where the project is. It's actually inside of Full HD, and you can see the project right here. But for more complex projects, you might find that by simply double-clicking on the Full HD folder, you're not going to get to the project right away. So what is the easiest way to find the project that's associated with this shortcut? Well, any shortcut in Windows, the easiest way to actually find where the shortcut leads to is to simply right-click on the actual shortcut and simply say Open File Location, and you can see there we go. There's the After Effects project. So if we needed to, we could quickly get to it by simply right-clicking on the shortcut and being sent right to it. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is just simply double-click on the shortcut, which is fine for the purposes of opening After Effects. And you're going to see in a matter of seconds here that After Effects CS6 is going to be open. I'm going to be reminded, well, hold on a second. This is coming from an earlier version of After Effects, a Windows version, and it's going to be opened as untitled, which is actually very helpful. This way, if I hit Control Shift and S to do a save as, I'm going to be prompted to give the project a new file name, so I don't ever have to worry about overwriting this project, so I'll always have it if I need to go back to a clean version of it. What I'm going to do is simply say OK. You'll see it'll take a second for the project to open. And now what I can do is simply come back to the beginning right here, and I can actually scroll through using adaptive resolution just to get a quick preview here. Looking very nice. Now something I do want to point out, which is something that I always get in and change right away, is you'll see that right now this project is set up in frame view. So it's giving me frames as opposed to timecode, and it's doing the same thing here inside of my composition. Now how do I get in and quickly change that? Well, it's actually very easy. What I'm going to do is simply navigate up to File, and I'm going to come down to Project Settings, and I'm going to switch from frames right up here to timecode. You're going to see also right down here that my depth is set to 16 bits per channel. Now if I don't need to use 16 bits per channel, I can always switch this back to 8 bits per channel. You'll see it'll take After Effects a second to update, and now I'm only working in 8-bit mode instead of working in 16-bit mode. Obviously you're going to get more color, more of a dynamic range inside of 16-bit mode, but obviously along with that comes longer renders, longer previews. So obviously it's completely up to you as to how you want to work. Now, something else I want to point out, and I'm working in After Effects CS6, I'm going to come into the comp right here. I'm going to double click on it, and you're going to see in here now that I have my 3 separate video walls. So let's just pick one video wall to work with. Let's just pick video wall 2 for right now. I'm simply going to double click on it, and you're going to see if I zoom in here using the right bracket key, you'll see here's my different drop zones that I'm going to want to get in and I'm going to want to add footage into. And you'll probably see where I'm going with this. Because I'm working in After Effects CS6, if I want to get in and I want to pick one of these drop zones to drop footage into, in a lot of cases what you find yourself doing is selecting each one of the different layers to find out what's what. But what if I didn't want to do that? What if I just wanted to come up and say, this is the layer that I want to get in and alter. Let me just use this one. Well, you're going to see that as I move the mouse over top of it inside of CS6, I can actually see the layer, and if I click on it, as soon as I click on it, it's automatically updated over here inside of my timeline. A very handy way to work, and a new feature inside of CS6. So what I'm going to do is simply, let's just select placeholder 36. I'm going to double click on it, and here's the drop zone ready to have footage dropped into it. So why don't we just do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control and I on Windows, Command and I on the Mac, and let's just import some footage here. And I think I'm going to bring in some time-lapse scenics. What I'm going to do is just bring in all of my clips. Why not? I'm simply going to say open. There they all are. We'll take all of our clips. I'm just going to drag them into a new folder. We'll call the folder, appropriately enough, clips. And let's start dropping some footage in here. What I'm going to do is simply select the clip that's in my comp, and I'm just going to pick the first one. Why? Well, because it's the first one. I'm going to hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac. We're going to drag this clip down into our project. Now, what's important to keep in mind about this clip is that the clip is 720p, 1280 by 720. Obviously, the clip that it's replacing is 1920 by 1080, so we're going to need to do a little bit of a scale adjustment. So what I can do is simply press S on both Mac and Windows, and I can adjust the scale like this, Or what I like to do is press Control and Alt on Windows, Command Option on the Mac, and F as in Foxtrot. And what After Effects is going to do is take this clip and it's going to scale it up to be the same size as the comp, just like that. You'll see a very easy way to get in and resize clips to make them the size of the comp. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to step back and we're going to step into each one of these, and I'm just going to take a different clip here. It doesn't really matter which one. You'll see some of them are a lot shorter than the actual comp itself, and that's okay for the purposes of what we're doing. And we're going to make sure that we scale all of these out here. Let's just come back here. I'll just close both of these as we go, just so we can keep things nice and organized. We'll take clip number 3, drop it in there, scale that up, close that, come back to the next one, exactly the same thing. We're on number 4, I believe here. Scale that up, and we'll come back. Last but certainly not least, we'll take this one here. Let's make sure we have our clip selected, holding Option on the Mac, Alt on Windows, scale that up. And you'll see now that if I come back, what I now have is I have this entire video wall populated. And I think what I'm going to do here, just for kicks, is we're going to come in and we're going to populate each one of these. Why not? Because I got some time here. And I'm just going to try to remember where we're at here, number 54. And we'll just keep going here. So we're number 55. Scale all these up. And you see that it's actually very easy to get in and do this very quickly. And obviously you're going to use whatever footage that you're going to want to put in here. And we're up to 32. And I believe we're up to 57 here. It doesn't even really matter if we double some of these up. And you'll see why we close a lot of these comps here, just so that we can keep track of exactly what's going on, because you can get quite a few comps open here, especially when you're dealing with these pre-comps. Let's come to the last one here, 58, put that in there. Control Alt and F on the keyboard, Command Option and F for all my Mac friends out there. And let's close this up here. You can see we've now just populated all these video walls. And last but certainly not least, I believe we're dealing with video wall number 3 now. There we go. So let's just put these ones in here. What were we up to? Yeah, sure, we're up to number 60 here. Drag that in there, scale that up. Same with this one. And like I said, if I double a couple of these up, I think that's probably okay. You get the idea of where we're going. I wasn't planning on putting all these in here, but why not? When it's this quick and it's this simple, why wouldn't I do it? Because that is what this should be all about. A fantastic looking end product, but also very, very easy for you to get in and add all of your own clips in here to make each one of these projects your own. And sure, we'll take this last one here. I should obviously point out that all of these clips are from Digital Juice's Video Tracks HD. And you'll see now that I now have the video wall populated. That's video wall 3, everything from video wall 2 populated, and everything from video wall 1 populated. I'm now going to come back to the main comp, and I'm simply going to preview this by hitting 0 on the numeric pad, and you're going to see now that very quickly we now have this very cool video wall. Now what's going to happen as we go, because a lot of these clips are only about 10 seconds long, once we get to the 10-second mark, some of them will start to disappear. But you can see that this probably took less than 5 minutes for me to get in to populate this video wall. But you can see it's a fantastic looking end product. And I literally got in and altered it in no time flat. So I hope you see that from the purchase to the download to the installation to the export and to the opening in After Effects and working, really you can be up and creating your own unique elements using these fantastic templates literally in about 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, you can head on over and post them in the Digital Juice forums. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.